Welcome to Leverage Point On Demand training. In this installment, we will cover how to build a table. Specifically, we will be building a table for TCO, or total cost of ownership, of our offering from the fictitious company Airventus. Our value proposition has a TCO chart. As I mentioned before, this is a very popular way to show value. However, unlike the value driver pages, this does not appear automatically. You need to manually create your table. Notice this page has a very similar layout to the value driver pages. There's a name on top and value message here. Note that the message says over the life of the equipment, which is 10 years. More on this later. The key element of this page is the table on the left and the stacked bar chart on the right. You'll notice that some of the same data points are shown on both sides. So for example, the NTG energy costs are shown here on the table and here on the bar chart. Likewise for BTR energy costs, and so on. However, note the total cost variables are only shown at the bottom of the table. So this page allows you the flexibility to show data on either one side or the other, or in both places. Let's see how this TCO chart is set up. To do that, we need to return to the Value Communications tool. Here we are on tab 1, Message. Now here at the bottom, there is a subtab called Tables. As you can see, there are a couple tables that have already been created, including the first one labeled Total Cost of Ownership. Next to the label is the value message that we just saw in the value proposition. Now to see the table itself, I'll click on the Details link. The first row and first column are shaded blue and are the table headers. These match what we saw in the table on the TCO page in our value proposition. NTG system and BTR system as the columns, energy costs, downtime costs, and so on as the rows, and here the last line, total cost. Now each brown cell is a specific variable from the value model. So for example, you see a variable named energy costs over the life of the NTG system that equals $7.3 million. Next, notice these blue add tag links. These are for special tags used for table formatting. For instance, the bottom row, total, has a tag called high chart, meaning that the variable only shows up on the table. Similarly, there is another tag called high table, which, as you'd expect, would put the data in the chart, but not in the table. If there are no tags at all, which you see for most of the rows and columns, then the variable will appear both in the table and the chart. This slide summarizes how these particular table tags work. Okay, let's demonstrate how to build an entirely new table. Once again, we're here in the Tables subtab in tab 1 of the Value Communication tool. To create a new table, I'll click Add in the bottom and a new row appears. First, give it a label. Let's call it Per Year Costs. Afterwards, let's give it a message or description. I'll type TCO charts are easy. Now I click on the Details link to add my variables, and the blank Edit Data Points dialog appears. First, add a couple columns. First column will be theirs, which will mean our next best competitive alternative costs. In the second column, I'll call ours, which would be our offerings costs. Next, let's create a row, energy costs. This will create two available cells, so I'll click select for one of them, which opens the select variable dialog. I'll use the search bar on the top and type energy, and we see multiple results. But I want this one, current cost of energy with NTG for HPAC per year for $730,000. Click select, and then OK, and you'll notice that it appears in our table. Let's now add our energy costs. Again, we'll click select and type in energy. And when you want to select this first item, cost of energy with BTR for HVAC per year. Then click OK, and OK again. Now let's click Save and go to the preview of our VP. Here you can see a new page has been created, and it represents the beginning of our chart. So simply repeat the steps for each row and column and you'll have your TCO chart. If, when building your value drivers, you created before and after formulas, then this should be relatively easy tasks. But sometimes you may need to add new variables or subformulas to create the variables that you want. Let me show you what I mean. You can click into the energy cost for their offering by clicking on the number in the table. If the number is a subformula, then the formula dialog box will appear. Here we have the yearly NTG energy cost. This is the same subformula that we used in the reduced energy cost value driver. As this is a yearly TCO table, this makes sense. However, for our lifetime TCO chart, we would need to create another variable that measured lifetime energy costs. To make a variable that would suit that table, TCO over equipment life, we took the subformula from the value driver, then added the number of years variable to multiply it. We did this for a number of variables to make that table. Let's take a look at how to create one of these formulas. Here I am on the Variables tab in the Value Messaging tool. To begin, I'll scroll down to the bottom of my variable list and click Add Variable. Let's make up a quick example. I'll call this Demo Example and click Add, and there it is at the bottom of my list. You'll notice that it is not used under the Usage column. Now I want to turn this into a subformula. I'll click the drop-down arrow to the right of the value box and click Convert to Subformula. The formula dialog box appears, which is the same as other formula dialog boxes we've seen before. Let's add variables and add formula logic that we used previously. Let's choose direct maintenance costs for our offering and direct maintenance costs for the competitor. Next, I'll add these together and click OK. And there it is. That's how you would create a subformula. To turn this into a currency variable, I can click this drop down again and choose toggle type until it's a currency. I don't want to keep this variable, so I'll click the down arrow again and choose delete. Now it's often the case that you'll need to create a subformula like this for competitor price and offering price. Let me show you what I mean. First, let's click on the competitor price tab and view the price component for NTG air conditioner. Price components, as well as value drivers, don't appear in the variable list. So if I want to use this calculation in a table, I need to make a copy and convert it into a subformula. So let's do that. First, close the formula box, then go to the drop-down and select Copy. A dialog box appears allowing you to rename it. I'll choose to name this TCO NTG air conditioners as a way to indicate that I will be using this version in my TCO chart. Click OK, and you'll see the copy is now in the competitor price component list. Next, click the drop-down arrow next to our newly created copy and select Convert to Subformula. You'll see a warning box telling you that by making this price component into a subformula, you'll be deleting the price component. That is why we made a copy of our original price component, so we'll say OK. The copy disappears, the original stays where it is, and to see the new subformula, we'll go back to the Variable subtab and scroll all the way to the bottom and see that it's been added. This is the exact same process as converting value drivers into subformulas as well, so you can do that with subformulas if you need to. In order to use this variable for my per year table, I'll need to make some edits. I'll click into the subformula by clicking on the calculator icon and add the variable facility size. Then I'll multiply these two by each other, and now I have a per year calculation. I'll click OK and scroll to the top and save. Now I'll go back to my Tables tab, open the table I started creating, and add a row, Materials Cost. Then I'll click Select under Theirs, and I'll find the variable that I just created. I could use a search bar at the top of the page, but here's a pro tip. All new variables always appear at the bottom of your variable list. So all I could do is scroll to the bottom and see TCO NTG air conditioners. Click Select, then OK. I'll click OK again, and I'll save. I'll return to my preview page and I'll refresh it in order to see the changes that we just made. And here you can see the new variable is in our chart. So making a table takes a little bit of organizing and work, but it's very doable. I just want to share a couple final thoughts on creating tables. First, you can use this functionality to create other types of tables besides TCO tables. Sometimes we hide the charts completely and use the table as an input sheet instead, so don't be afraid to play with the flexibility of this page. Second, the existing table editing function is limited at this time. Specifically, you cannot insert a row or column. This means that when you create a table, you should think about the order of your rows and columns before you start in order to avoid having to redo it from scratch. Before we finish this chapter, I want to quickly show you a comparison page. Comparison pages are similar in style and function to tables, but less commonly used because they are less flexible. Instead of a matrix, you have a list of variables. They can be useful when you want to show a visual but don't have information that fits nicely into a table. Comparisons can be built through the Comparison tab and functions very similar to tables. This concludes this installment of the Leverage Point On-Demand training. Thanks for watching.